You have been drinking coffee every morning for decades, the same cup, the same routine, the same ritual that starts your day, and yet you still wake up with a foggy head that does not fully clear until mid-morning. Your joints ache when you first get out of bed, your digestion feels sluggish after breakfast, your energy dips well before lunch even though you slept adequately the night before. What if the problem is not the coffee itself, but what is missing from it, and what you have been adding to it that has been quietly canceling out most of its benefit? If this channel has ever given you something worth knowing, hit that subscribe button right now, leave a like, and drop a comment below, because that is what keeps this kind of conversation reaching the people who genuinely need it. I'm Dr. Mercer, and this channel exists to bring you the latest evidence-based research on senior health. Simplified and designed for adults over 60, stay with me through this entire video, because by the end you will understand the specific biochemical reason why coffee prepared in a particular way delivers measurably different benefits than the version most people have been drinking, which single kitchen spice the research identifies as a powerful functional complement to coffee's primary active compounds, and exactly how to prepare this combination to get the most from it. Let's begin with what coffee actually is from a biochemical standpoint, because most people have only ever thought of it as caffeine. Coffee is one of the richest dietary sources of polyphenol in the Western diet. The most clinically studied of these is chlorogenic acid, a compound that directly slows the rate at which glucose is absorbed from the digestive tract into the bloodstream, supports liver detoxification pathways, and reduces systemic oxidative stress. A review published in the journal Nutrients examining the clinical effects of chlorogenic acid across 23 studies found consistent evidence of reduced post-meal glucose spikes, improved insulin sensitivity, and measurable reductions in markers of hepatic inflammation in adults who consumed chlorogenic acid-rich coffee daily. These are not marginal findings. The effects were most pronounced in adults over 60, specifically in individuals with early insulin resistance and pre-diabetic glucose patterns. That matters because it means the population most likely to be watching this video is also the population where coffee's protective compounds have the most to offer, and yet most people are unknowingly neutralizing those compounds before they even finish their first cup. Before I explain that, let me introduce the second compound at the center of this conversation. Clove contains a molecule called eugenol, and clove is the most concentrated dietary source of eugenol available. Eugenol is a documented anti-inflammatory compound that has been studied for its effects on several mechanisms relevant to older adults. It reduces inflammatory signaling at the cellular level. It has a mild, smooth muscle relaxant effect that, in the context of the cardiovascular system, supports vascular flexibility, and it has been shown to improve insulin receptor sensitivity at the cellular membrane level. Research published in the Journal of Medicinal Food examining the combination of chlorogenic acid with eugenol found that the two compounds produced a synergistic effect on glucose metabolism and inflammatory markers that was significantly greater than either compound produced independently. This is what food scientists call synergy, where the combined action exceeds the arithmetic sum of the individual contributions. The coffee contains chlorogenic acid, the clove contains eugenol. Together, the research suggests they address inflammation, glucose regulation, and vascular function through complementary and reinforcing mechanisms. Now let me walk you through the 4 specific ways that most people's current morning coffee habit is working against them, because understanding this is what makes the protocol that follows feel logical rather than arbitrary. The first problem is what is being added to the coffee. Sugar dissolved in coffee introduces a concentrated glucose load directly alongside the chlorogenic acid that was meant to slow glucose absorption. The chlorogenic acid moderates the digestion of complex carbohydrates. It cannot cancel out the direct glucose you have just dissolved into the same cup. The insulin spike follows anyway. A major analysis published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that the protective association between coffee consumption and type 2 diabetes risk was statistically significant for plain coffee but was substantially diminished or absent for sweetened coffee. Sweetened coffee was metabolically closer to a sugary beverage than to plain coffee in terms of its effect on blood sugar markers. Milk and cream introduce casein, proteins that bind to polyphenol, specifically chlorogenic acid, and significantly reduce their absorption in the gut. You are still consuming the coffee, but a meaningful portion of its active compounds are being carried through the digestive system bound to protein and unavailable to your cells. I had a patient I will call Bernard. He was 67, drank 2 large coffees every morning, both with a spoonful of sugar and a generous amount of cream. and had been doing so for 20 years. He presented with persistently elevated fasting glucose and morning brain fog he described as a thick layer over everything that took hours to lift. When we removed the sugar and cream and introduced the preparation method I will describe shortly, his fasting glucose dropped by 12 points over 6 weeks, and he told me the morning fog was noticeably less within the first 2 weeks. No medication was changed. The only variable was the morning coffee. The second problem is coffee timing. Most people drink coffee immediately after waking. While cortisol is peaking naturally as part of the dawn phenomenon, caffeine amplifies the cortisol response, instructing the liver to release additional stored glucose into the bloodstream. Your blood sugar rises before you have eaten anything, waiting 45 to 60 minutes after waking before consuming coffee, and eating a small protein source first, allows the natural cortisol peak to pass before the caffeine amplifies it. The third problem is instant or heavily processed coffee. The processing methods used to produce instant coffee significantly degrade chlorogenic acid content, the protective polyphenol that are the primary source of coffee's metabolic benefits are substantially lower in instant preparations than in freshly ground and brewed coffee. If you are drinking instant coffee, you are getting the caffeine with a fraction of the protective chemistry. The fourth problem is preparation of the clove addition itself. Eugenol cannot be extracted from a whole clove simply by dropping it into a cup of hot liquid. The compound requires either heat during extraction or physical rupture of the clove's cell walls through crushing to become bioavailable. Dropping an intact whole clove into coffee produces a pleasant aroma and very little therapeutic benefit. The eugenol remains locked inside the fibrous structure of the spice. Before I give you the specific preparation protocol, I need to say something clearly and without softening it. This video is providing evidence-based nutritional information. It is not a treatment protocol for any medical condition, and it is not a replacement for your physician's guidance. If you are taking anticoagulant medication including warfarin, high-dose aspirin, or any blood-thinning therapy, you must discuss the addition of clove to your daily routine with your physician before beginning. Eugenol has documented mild anticoagulant properties that can interact with these medications in ways that require clinical monitoring. If you have active gastritis, a gastric ulcer, or significant acid reflux, coffee itself may be contraindicated for you regardless of preparation method. The clove addition does not address underlying gastrointestinal conditions. If you have liver disease, consult your physician before adding any new daily botanical compound, and as always, any new symptom that emerges after changing a dietary habit should be discussed with your physician promptly. Now, what does the evidence support as the most effective preparation method for maximizing the synergistic benefit of coffee and clove together? The preparation method that produces the highest eugenol extraction is a brief decoction. Take 3 whole cloves and place them in a small pot with 300 milliliters of water, approximately 1 1/4 cups. Bring to a gentle boil and then reduce the heat to a low simmer for exactly 5 minutes. Do not continue beyond 7 minutes. Eugenol is heat sensitive and prolonged exposure to high heat begins to degrade it. Strain the clove water, removing the whole cloves, and use this liquid to brew your coffee using whatever method you normally prefer, French press, drip, or pour over. Drink the brewed coffee plain, on an empty stomach or after a small protein source, and slowly. If the full decoction process is impractical on a busy morning, a simplified version works at approximately 60 to 70% of the full preparation's effectiveness. Crush 1 whole clove using a mortar and pestle or the flat side of a knife to rupture the cell walls. Drop it into freshly brewed black coffee, allow it to steep for 3 minutes, and then drink. Crushing the clove manually releases a portion of the eugenol into the hot liquid without requiring the decoction process. I want to tell you about a patient I will call Marguerite. She was 71, had been managing prediabetic glucose levels for 3 years, and came in primarily because her morning energy and digestion had been consistently poor for over a year. She described waking up stiff, taking until mid-morning to feel functional, and experiencing significant bloating after every breakfast regardless of what she ate. Her morning coffee routine included instant coffee, 2 spoons of sugar, and a generous portion of milk. We made 3 changes. We switched to freshly ground brewed coffee. We removed the sugar and milk entirely, and we introduced the clove decoction method described above. 8 weeks later she described waking more clearly, less morning stiffness, and a digestive comfort she had not experienced in years. Her fasting glucose had dropped 6 points on her morning readings and her post-breakfast glucose was more stable than it had been in 2 years. No prescription was changed. Here is exactly what to do. Step 1. Starting tomorrow morning, switch to freshly ground or freshly brewed whole bean coffee if you are currently using instant. Step 2. Remove sugar and milk or cream from your morning coffee entirely. If you cannot drink it completely plain, a small amount of coconut oil or a pinch of Ceylon cinnamon are the least disruptive additions to polyphenol absorption. Step 3. Introduce the clove preparation method. Either the 5-minute decoction with 3 whole cloves or the crushed single clove steep. Begin with the crushed clove method and transition to the decoction when your morning routine allows. Step 4. Delay your first coffee by 45 to 60 minutes after waking and eat a small protein source first: 1 egg, a small amount of plain Greek yogurt, or a handful of unsalted nuts are sufficient. Step 5. At your next physician appointment, mention that you are adding clove to your daily coffee and ask whether any of your current medications, particularly anticoagulants or anti-inflammatory drugs, would interact with the mild anticoagulant and anti-inflammatory properties of eugenol. Ask also whether your current fasting glucose readings could benefit from this approach as a complement to any existing dietary guidance you have been given. One important clarification before we close. The preparation method described here and the research supporting its benefits applies specifically to plain black coffee, freshly brewed from whole beans or quality grounds, without dairy, sweeteners, or flavorings. The synergistic effects documented in the research were studied using plain coffee preparations. Adding clove to a sweetened or dairy-based coffee does not produce the same outcome because the additions that block polyphenol absorption remain in the cup. Additionally, individual responses to coffee and to clove vary. Some adults over 60 are sensitive to caffeine's effects on heart rate, blood pressure, or sleep quality even in moderate amounts. If you are in this category, high-quality decaffeinated coffee retains its chlorogenic acid content and can be prepared with the same clove method. The caffeine is not responsible for the metabolic benefits described in this video. Those benefits are driven by the polyphenol, which survive the decaffeination process substantially intact. The cup you have been drinking every morning for decades has been carrying protective compounds your body genuinely benefits from. The clove sitting in your kitchen cabinet contains a compound that works in concert with those polyphenol in a way that is well supported by the research. The only thing standing between you and that benefit is how the coffee is prepared and what you are putting into it. If this video gave you something useful, hit the like button right now. Leave a comment telling me whether you currently drink your coffee plain or with additions and whether you plan to try the clove preparation method tomorrow, and share this with someone you care about who starts every morning with a cup of coffee and has no idea that a single inexpensive adjustment to how it is prepared could change how they feel for the rest of the day. Subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you in the next one. Take good care of yourselves.